everybody, and welcome to a very belated and long-awaited Technique Friday. Now, I've been teaching a lot about finger painting lately, and to be honest with you, some people take to it really easily and then other people struggle with the idea of finger painting. I will preface this that you should wear art guard, which I can't get in Australia, or some kind of barrier product on your hands before you decide that you're going to go with finger painting. And you should pretty much stay away from products like cadmium yellow or products with cadmium in them when you're finger painting. So I'm going to substitute that cadmium yellow for a Naples yellow, because I love blending with that particular colour anyway. So the first thing I'm going to do is just create a small palette. Now when you're finger painting, you need to have all your colours out, and I'll put this in the one that already had some yellow in it. You can tell that Naples is my absolute favourite yellow, because I have like 6 different brands. I've got some Naples yellow red, which is like the most divine kind of peachy apricot coral colour. And I'm looking at some alizarin crimson here, and it's a transparent shade. I'll pop that into a warm. And I'm using warm colours here because I like to blend like colours that are what they call analogous on the colour spectrum, so they sit together on the colour spectrum, and of course because they're all warms they're all going to blend really well. But I am, for interest's sake, going to add in a little bit of dioxazine purple here, and of course we can't do this without adding in white. Well, I can't anyway. Of course you can finger paint with any paint that you like, but I like always to use white with that. And I usually use a buff titanium as well, but that's because I'm into stormy kind of earthy colours right now. So what I do is I start with a little palette like this with my paint. And the first thing that I'm going to talk to you about is the different strokes that you can do with fingers. So a lot of us will understand finger painting where we do this, and we make marks with our fingers like that. But what people don't understand is that you can get something, and I'll pull one of my journals out. You can get something like this, or I'll pull to the other page, or like this. Now that page there was pretty much completely done with finger painting, which gives you a beautiful look that you cannot achieve with a brush, and the only brush detail actually there is actually in the mouse's head to give some detail. Now I use this because, and I use it a lot in my art therapy as well, because it's a very kind of visceral experience to experience paint that way. But essentially what I like to do is just grab a couple of colours, and I often just do them on my hand, and then you get these beautiful gradations of colours that you can just add in. Now I'm using a cross thatch technique here, so you can see that I'm cross thatching and bringing in different colours as I do that, and then bringing some of those colours across. So one of the things that I love about finger painting is that you can have a very, very similar technique to your brush here, but the smoothness that you get, you really just can't get from a brush. And I often will start my finger painting below and just clean off my finger here and get the extra off, and then continue below. And then I'll add white over that colour, and you see again I'm just creating something that might loosely be termed as a sunset. This is used a lot. I use it a lot in my abstract painting to be able to blend colours beautifully and seamlessly and create lovely shades of colours that you can see here. So without any of the glare on it, that's kind of the colours that you're looking at here. Now, I'm just going to turn my phone down because it's noisy. So if I were then to have a lighter area, you know that if with colour blending that yellow and purple are on opposite ends of the colour spectrum. But have a look at what happens when I finger paint with them here. So I'm using a Naples in with the yellow. And it's not really bringing it into a terrible kind of muddy neutral. Let's throw in some white here as well. It's bringing it into a beautiful kind of, I don't know, it's a neutral that is not a brown so much already. And one of the things is I'm using a deeply pigmented purple and a less pigmented yellow. You can see that beautiful gradation of the complementary colours there. That is not an awful neutral, it's actually a beautiful neutral that we can then add to. Because orange and purple just look amazing together. And having just worked a lot with a silhouette series with lots of orange and purples together, I get that, you know, the creation that we live in is just simply amazing. And I'm just blending. You can see how I'm just blending that in again and creating some amazing spaces. So that's across that technique. You also can have the same sorts of techniques that you have with brushing. So I saw someone the other day, and what they did when in one of my classes was they essentially drew like it was a cloud tree. So they kind of drew that down, and then they had some rough trunks coming down, and it was just floating in the air, and then there were some other clouds here and some other clouds here. Now the background was very dark, so let's go in and just create some dark background, and I'm going to use some crimson here and really redden that up. And around the edges. So it's an interesting exercise. So now I'm just kind of scribbling and using strokes backwards and forwards to create an outline and an atmosphere here. Let's add in some orange and give it some neutrals where it mixes, and some more reds, and just really make that quite bold. And I'm just going across and across and across. You can see that I've got different strokes forming in a direction, and I'm giving it some real directionality now. So I'm making sure that when I do my strokes, the strokes are going down one way, and that creates movement in the piece. So then I want to lighten it going down further, but I want to add a little bit of this in. And again, I'm just using those directionals, and I don't often put a lot of paint on there. You can also increase this with like a glazing fluid, or you can increase it with retarder medium to increase the workability. So I often will add this in, and it will just reactivate the paint, and I get a little bit more of it in that space. And all I'm wanting to do now is just, I'm dipping into the glazing medium there, just doing the outline, but really blending a little bit of the glaze in here, and just quickly, you know, adding in different techniques for actually doing the painting. And this is one of the things that I love a lot about finger painting. It is so immediate. I really connect with the pieces that I create a lot quicker and a lot more boldly. Now I'm going to throw in some yellow and mix it in. Again, going in that direction because I'm wanting directionality. So all of the directionality is kind of going this way, and it makes everything kind of look like it's moving. So now I'm just going to go in with the white around the edges, and at first I'm just going to lay that colour down. But now I'm just going to take a little bit of the paint around the edges and just draw it in to give that kind of smooth edge, so that we don't have this, we have more of a cloud sort of a look that might be just that little bit smudgy and, you know, out there and wispy. And we're having this kind of cloud look that's going. And then something that we can do is add in like a deep umber. And I'm going to use a brush for this because I like the idea of having a contrast. So this is finger painting, but I'm going to add some umber in with some purple just to keep the palette roughly the same, so that you've got that deeper kind of purple. And you can see that darkness of the purple coming out, and I'm just wanting these branches to sort of go and look like they're hanging, and that just gives a point of difference to the painting. So now I'm going to go back to my background here, and I've got clouds here, and I can connect into these sections over here and maybe do a little bit more wispy cloud sort of work. And now I'm going to work the whole lot in. So got some clouds here, predominantly white, just blocking them in a bit. Got a little bit of paint on my hands. And I've gotten a little bit in from the trunk, but I don't really care about that. Don't really care about that. Because this is more about just laying it down really fast and having a lot of fun while you're doing it. And creating something really quickly. And you can see that I work with the paint really quickly, and often you let things dry as you do it. Now I'm just going to add in some glazing medium here because I want this kind of feathery edge look going on, and then I'm going to add in more white here, and I'm going to just bring it in to being with all the outer edges so that it kind of looks really fluffy and flowy. And in fact I'm just going to extend the cloud out here down further and bring in just that little bit of additional colour down here. And you can see I'm just not doing that cross thatch technique. I'm now wanting to get back into that kind of tonal directionality. And one of the tricks is learning what blends and what doesn't. So you're seeing here that I'm working into a colour palette that blends well. Even with the complementary colours, I've picked the way that I combine them in a certain way, and then suddenly I've got this awesome sort of picture starting to emerge out of, you know, 5 minutes of finger painting. And we can add in a little bit of, you know, texture to the cloud in its different forms, always using a glaze at this point to add in that different texture within the cloud so that the cloud starts to have more life in it. And then I can add a little bit more white into that. And I'm choosing to do that in a purple rather than a grey, because my clouds are kind of hot, and you can see now that if I do this when it's wet, that we have the ability to kind of spread some of this out a little bit more. We do it when it's wet, and we have the ability to kind of blend and blend, and you just add some more paint and add some more paint, and we have a little bit of the directionality again going, and add it in until you're happy with the blend that you've got. And if you're wanting to add extra colour in, you can, and it just allows you, you know, to add in additional details. But essentially you've got a little mini painting here that I've done on the page, incorporated some of the areas around here just because I can with the blending techniques that I'm using. I can do that. I can blend over the top of and you cannot get that quite so smoothly and interestingly with a brush. So I encourage you to have a little bit of fun with some finger painting. I often use quite dark colours at the moment. I'm just going to put in that tree because I kind of like that tree. Just adding a little bit more definition to it. And I love. So in closing, be bold about doing finger painting. You can do finger painting. You can use the same sort of crosshatch techniques. You can go like this, you can go like that, right? You can go directional. So you can go directional, and you can add in different things to change the directionality of what you're doing. You can go in circles to blend. See how I'm blending a whole different colour? And it's coming out very much like the Naples red hue. And you can blend differently that way. That will more thoroughly blend your colours if you're looking for a pot of colour. You can do your complementary colours. Just be careful about the way that you blend them, and understand that you will get beautiful neutrals. But like I said, I don't blend a cadmium yellow with a dark scene purple. I kind of never do that. I tend to blend the yellow and the purple with one bright and one muted. So either the purple will be muted or the yellow will be muted in that case when I'm using this technique. Because ultimately we want to create something that goes together and works well. And you can work with your shadows, and you can work all these things in. I would just use a retarder medium, or like I've got here, just a glazing medium, because the glazing medium will actually extend the drying time of the paint as well. And remember to guard your fingers, and then as soon as you finish finger painting, scrub all of the paint off your fingers, and make sure that you have all of the paint off from around your nails, because when you're using this technique it's really important to do that. And I encourage you to get out there and do a little bit more finger painting. It's also very fun to do it over collage, which is the first picture that I showed you with the lake scene, and you can do a lot of things over the top of that and with the background. Okay, ciao for now. Remember, learn something new today. It keeps you young.